You're listening to Cinemajaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from Cinemajaw Studios in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye the movie guy, and sitting to my left is Filmy and Phil.
Hello.
This week on Cinemajaw, Matt, we celebrate Marty Scorsese with a new movie review, Killers of the Flower Moon, and our top 5 favorite Martin Scorsese scenes.
This had to be one of the most anticipated films of the year, right?
Hands down. It's right up there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And we'll get to it.
Yes. We are going to talk about Killers of the Flower Moon in great detail, spoiler-free, as this review will drop a few days before it releases in theaters. And our top 5 Martin Scorsese scenes, which was fun to go through and watch some scenes in preparation for this list.
Yeah.
I had a fun afternoon looking at some Scorseses.
I just rewatched one right before we hit record.
Nice.
Yeah.
Always doing homework over there, aren't you, Mac?
I mean, it's not really hard. It's fun homework.
It is. We also, in honor of Killers of the Flower Moon, are going to play Stump the Cabinski since we don't have a guest. It is Flower Moon movie trivia. So think of movies.
Can we do Sailor Moon movie
Flower.
trivia instead?
And Moon in the title.
You wouldn't know that either, though.
I'd know a little bit more, maybe. I used to watch Sailor Moon here and there, the cartoon, not the movie.
Everything Sailor Moon is great. I love it.
It was on like right after Pokemon, so I would watch it. Anyway, sorry, Ryan, get back to movies. What you were saying.
Oh, even more for the Jawheads. In addition to that, we threw a poll question out. Get thinking of this one, Jawheads. We'll get to it when we open up the fish tank. Since this actually marked the first time that DiCaprio, De Niro are in a Martin Scorsese film together. These are his two guys, right?
Wow, this was the first?
Yeah.
If only Joe Pesci was in it, then
Right?
it would have been the trifecta.
So really his two workhorses, early in his career, De Niro, later in his career, DiCaprio. So we threw this out onto Twitter. What is your favorite Martin Scorsese collaboration with? Marty and Robert De Niro or Marty and Leonardo DiCaprio? So think about it.
Ooh, wow.
Some great films under both those
Oh, yeah.
covers right there.
I don't know where to go. We'll have to, it'll be a game time decision, Ryan.
And I think this is a jam-packed jaw.
It is. Are we going to talk about Ciff, the Chicago International Film Festival?
We should. In fact, we're recording this on Friday the 13th. Rare occasion that we ever record a Cinemajaw on a Friday.
Very rare.
Very, very rare. And we had to do this because it was a very busy week for us here. The Cinemajaw team went out to the Chicago International Film Festival opening night,
Yep.
right in front of the Music Box. You probably heard us promoting it. They do a block party starting at about 5 p.m. They have a bunch of booths out there, beer, whiskey tasting. I know you partook in.
Why wouldn't
A
you?
wine tasting. I partook in.
How was the wine?
Very well.
Did they
I
pair
enjoyed
it with cheese?
No. It was a nice Zinfandel, though. There were bands playing. There were short films, movie trivia. It was a swell time.
The movie trivia was ridiculously hard.
It was. I did all right in it. I was actually just helping a couple of girls that I walked up to it and I blurted out the first answer. I thought it was like one of those answer it and someone's going to throw me a T-shirt. And then I realized that you're supposed to play through the app.
Oh,
And at that
how
point,
boring.
I just helped the people in front of me a little bit with the ones that I knew. And then after a while, I was like, man, this is tough trivia. And this is coming from a guy that writes trivia questions.
Yeah, it was really tough. When you don't know a single name that's in the multiple choice, I just walked away. Like, yeah, not meant for me.
So we were out there. Phil joined us as well. Great time. The Jaw team then went into the opening night film, which was We Grown Now.
Yeah.
Has a nice Chicago connection. Obviously shot here, made here from a Chicago filmmaker. And it tells the story of two young boys. I would say their age is about 9 years old.
Something like that.
Right in that age group.
Very innocent kids.
And they were growing up in the Cabrini Green projects. For those outside of the Chicago area, these were notorious projects. Big towers were up in the middle of them, and the whole entire area was getting quite dangerous with gang activity. There were shootings. It was a very bad scene here. And it was actually just outside of the sort of like River North
Division
area.
Street area.
South Loop. Yeah.
Not even South Loop, no.
No,
it's North Loop. Yeah,
it was on Division. So to put this in context, it's just outside of one area where there's these Division Street bars, and you got like Gibson Steakhouse and the Gold Coast. And then if you just went a little bit further west, you're going into like Wicker Park, which was
an artist
community. So it was just right in the middle of this, and it was just a very bad situation that just seemed to turn and get worse and worse.
Yeah, there's a lot of politics involved, and obviously this film, We Grown Now, tries to show the human side of this. And to be completely honest, I don't know. They may have stretched that a little bit for me, because I saw what it was really like. Granted, I wasn't here in the 80s, so I don't know.
Well, the movie, I believe, is set in 1992.
92, okay. I wasn't here in the 90s either. Mm-hmm. But even by then, here's another film you can watch, Candyman,
right?
Which kind of shows, the darker side. Obviously, that's a horror movie. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, man. I mean, Cabrini Green, through no fault of the people who live there, became, a pretty dangerous place.
For sure.
I mean, just driving by it, sometimes you would hear gunshots and stuff. And you're right. It was just smack dab in the middle of these nice neighborhoods. It was a weird place.
It was. And so in the film, we actually just follow these two young boys, like 8, 9 years old, as we're saying, and we're seeing the world through their eyes. And all kids at that age are, extremely innocent, extremely, I should say
optimistic.
They have, optimistic.
Dreamers.
They have big dreams.
Yeah.
And one of the nice things in the movie is they talk about, like, you need to jump. Right? There's kids are just having fun in the playground, jumping on like old mattresses that they find and they pile up. And who didn't do this as a kid? Doing backflips and all kinds of stuff. Great metaphor, ultimately, for kids who want to get out of the situation that they're in. You want to jump, you want to fly, you want to move forward. So I liked that. And the imagery, I thought when the film did its best was when it let the imagery do the talking. Mm-hmm. There were moments where...
Great shots in there.
Yes. Moments where like a character would maybe like look around, and then we would go into sort of like almost like a surreal...
Like a daydream.
Moment. And the imagery on screen at that point really brought me to tears. And it is a tear-jerking movie. I think it's going to move a lot of people. Yeah.
90 minutes long, nice and tight. It does, even for a shorter film like that, have a bit of a slower pace, which, that may not be everybody's cup of tea. I don't know. Maybe it was because the characters were so captivating and charming. I didn't find it to be boring at any point. Not a lot happens. This isn't like an action-packed thriller or anything by any stretch. It's a slow, emotional, moving film with some really great imagery. And if you have any kind of Chicago connection, I think you'll enjoy this one.
Absolutely. It definitely shows the beauty inside of what was kind of like, a rough and ugly area. But we still see the beauty in there,
Yeah.
So, yeah. Phil, you were with us. Your take.
I also think like it did a really good job of just showing these kids being kids.
Yeah.
Like getting into trouble, playing hooky, picking on the teacher, like goofing around with their friends. There's a scene where like the two main characters are walking to school, and then like a character who they're friends with but like is a little irritating and they like giving guff is walking with them. And it was just so like, I don't know, as we're all older now looking at it, it's like they did a really good job
of capturing
It's really
youth.
hard for adults to write children because we forget. This was awesome.
Yeah. Good observation. I agree. And I liked when they got out into Chicago.
That
and
was
they
the
go
best.
To the Art Institute.
Oh, hands down. I thought for a second all they were going to do was get on the L and drive around the loop and then come back, which I thought would have been magical because they were excited just to see the buildings when they're on the L car and they play with that old guy who's fallen asleep and they're trying on his hats as he's probably just, snoring on the L. But they end up going to the Art Institute and they get out into Chicago. I love that scene.
I did too. That was really magical, like you said. Mm-hmm. It was good.
In a way, it reminded me of some of like the imagery that like Tree of Life would use, where it somehow captured the essence of being a child, the innocence of it all. So seek it out. We Grown Now. It did get picked up by Sony Classics, I believe. So
yep. Yeah, that's what she said. We got to see the director do a bit of a Q&A. We stayed for most of it. It was great.
Yep. And look for it. I don't know the exact release. Maybe we can throw that in the fish tank.
Perfect.
And get that out to the jawheads. But
seek this one out.
That's how the festival kicked off. Now here we are. We're at the block party. We have a few beers. Of course, you got to have a beer with the movie. Matt gets a big thing of popcorn. We're really enjoying ourselves. Then they clear the theater, and thanks to Dark Sky Films and the cast and crew of Departing Seniors,
Claire Cooney's film, who we just had on.
We were on the list for their pre-party in the lounge area. So our name was on the list. We get to go into the party at that point. It's free drinks, free food. A bunch of people that we know are in there. The Jaw team had a good time.
We sure did. That was fun. Claire was there. We got to say hello. We met some of her cast. Pat McDonald, our friend. We spoke to a few other critics from our group. Good times, man. Plus, free drinks, right?
It was. And I'm just so glad that Phil's here today, because when I left him, let's just picture this. Matt leaves, takes an Uber. I say I'm going into the movie. Phil states taking the bike to the train. That's how you were getting home, right?
Absolutely.
Phil had their limit of beers. So I thought
Phil,
to myself...
were you toasted?
So I thought
Always.
to myself,
Oh, man.
I sure hope Phil gets home. Phil's here today.
I'm better on two wheels than two legs. Yeah, I feel like that makes perfect sense. It was a little wet, but it was raining that evening. We left that part out conveniently, but
you seemed fine. You were fine.
I was okay. Ryan's overdoing it. Honestly, you guys have seen me. I've probably been drunker on the show. A couple of Tallarico episodes when we break out the whiskey.
Oh, yeah.
It was a little too dim, right? I'm iconic for my hot dog red skin. When my Asian flush comes out when I'm drunk. I don't think there was hamburgers next to me, and I wasn't as pink as the middle of they are.
Oh my God, those hamburgers were raw.
I stayed away from the food.
That was fine. I ate it. It was good. I didn't get any foodborne illness. I'm good.
Well, we are still right smack dab in the middle of the Chicago International Film Festival. We'll have more to say about it, a little recap of it next week. Sound good?
Yeah, you're seeing some more.
I'm seeing some more tomorrow, Sunday, Monday. I'm seeing some more at the fest. So
busy time for the Jaw.
Love it. Let's kick this thing off with a Martin Scorsese fact.
Yes, this week we're going all the way back. We're going with Martin Scorsese's very first film, Who's That Knocking at My Door, from 1967. The film was a very intimate and close portrayal of life in the streets of Little Italy. Harvey Keitel, another big Scorsese actor, would even go on to do 5 more films from the 70s and 80s. Keitel starred as Scorsese's alter ego, a streetwise but sensitive Italian-American, plagued by the knowledge that his girlfriend had been assaulted. The film earned Scorsese a lot of encouraging reviews, and he was offered the position of assistant director and supervising editor on Woodstock from 1970s because of his work on this. And Woodstock, which as a project coming out of what he had just done with Who's That Knocking at My Door, it seems like a lot that I wouldn't want to take on personally. But he ended up translating more than 100 hours of raw footage. 100. I didn't even realize that Woodstock was that long of a festival.
It was 3 days long.
That's 72 hours.
That's a lot of, but there's multiple cameras going.
Sure.
Good for them.
Yeah.
100 hours of footage into a 3-hour movie. That's a 97% loss. But he won an Academy Award for Best Documentary. So.
Well, he didn't, but the film did.
Yes, that's true.
I'd never seen Woodstock.
I don't know if I've ever sat through the whole thing.
No.
But we've all seen the iconic clips.
The clips, but I've never sat down and watched the entire movie.
I don't know if I have either. We should do that.
I want to get the 97-hour version, right? There's all this talk about a Snyder cut. I want the full 100 hours of Woodstock.
Somewhere in Scorsese's vault that exists.
I want him to redo the Limp Bizkit Woodstock, right? There's so much untapped potential here, Marty.
Woodstock 99.
I do like that documentary on
That was
Max.
crazy.
That was a good one.
Yeah, that was nuts. Heather made me watch it. All right. Speaking of Martin Scorsese, you guys, the great Martin Scorsese is back with an Oscar-baity film starring some heavy hitters and based on a best-selling book. Killers of the Flower Moon clocks in at a whopping 3.5 hours. So the question on everyone's mind, is it worth that runtime? Ryan and I headed to Osage County to find out.
Whose land is this? My land. Well, our war hero has arrived. You made a good choice coming back here. Osage are the finest, wealthiest, and most beautiful people on God's earth. They outsmarted everybody. They have the say who gets the oil. Son, I got a question. You like women?
That's my weakness.
Killers of the Flower Moon is an American epic Western crime drama directed and produced by Martin Scorsese, who co-wrote the screenplay with Eric Roth, based on the 2017 book of the same name by David Grann. Its plot centers on a series of Oklahoma murders in the Osage Nation during the 1920s, committed after oil was discovered on tribal land. The film stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, and Lily Gladstone, with Jesse Plemons, Tonto Cardinal, John Lithgow, and Brendan Fraser in supporting roles. It marks the 6th feature film collaboration between Scorsese and DiCaprio, and the 10th between Scorsese and De Niro. I found Killers of the Flower Moon to be a mixed bag. It goes without saying that these are master storytellers at work. Scorsese is a titan of cinema, and the actors involved are all at the top of their game. The film features some downright breathtaking, harrowing, brave, and searing performances. DiCaprio's face is so twisted and contorted, he barely even needs to speak as we watch his character unravel. I also want to highlight Lily Gladstone, who turns in a heartbreaking depiction of a deteriorating woman. However, while the film isn't a boring slog per se, it certainly takes its time. I mean, we got to talk to Marty. This could have lost a whole hour. There are scenes and subplots that feel wholly unnecessary, and a brisker pace would have been much appreciated here. Also, without getting into spoilers, Marty makes a drastic storytelling choice at the end of the movie, and I get what he was going for here, but it felt a little unsatisfying after 3.5 hours. Also, I do believe he was turning the lens toward himself metaphorically, but I'm not sure that worked for me in terms of what he was trying to say about the blame for such historic stories. But that's a deeper topic. Ryan, what is your initial thoughts on Killers of the Flower Moon?
So you mentioned at the top that this was one of the most anticipated movies of the year.
I mean, of course.
It was up there. And whenever you have that, you're hoping that it hits those expectations, obviously. You're anticipating, you're excited for it. And I will say it came up a little short for me. So I'm not going to scream at the top of my lungs that this is a four-jaw movie. This is not a bad movie by any means. But again, as you mentioned, I was really looking forward to this movie. I had read the book. And I don't know going forward if I'm going to seek out books that I know are going to be movies, because I don't have a good track record, or at least I find that I don't enjoy the movie after I've read the book nearly as much. And
the book's always better.
Right. The book is always better, so they say. But in this particular case, even the title of the book is called Killers of the Flower Moon and the Birth of the FBI. And I don't know sometimes when I read a book if maybe I focused on the wrong thing in the book, because then when I see the movie, something is, in my opinion, kind of brushed over or not the main focus, as maybe the director and the screenwriter make something else to be the focus. And I think, why did I come away thinking this about the book when the movie is really focusing on that? You know what I mean? And in this case, since you hadn't read the book, I wanted to ask you, did you feel that there was like a dread, that there was literally no one for the Osage to turn to with all these murders going around? There's a lot of oil on their land, and there's clearly people getting murdered because they want to eventually inherit land from these Osage tribes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's to the point, and in the book you really feel this, that when they're turning to one authority figure after another authority figure, they're all in on this. There's nowhere to turn for them to actually get justice. And when they go to Washington, D.C., which is depicted in the movie, it's like a major moment because it's like throwing a Hail Mary in a last-second football game. They go out there to try to plead to somebody maybe from the federal government to come look at this.
Grover Cleveland, isn't it?
Right.
The president.
Yeah. So they're looking to try to get a hold of somebody to say, can somebody from the federal government that's not attached to the situation down there come investigate these crimes? It's that big of a scandal. And that's the birth of the FBI. Like, the idea was that, well, we need somebody that is at a federal level that can even investigate authority, in certain counties and stuff. Did that come through very big in the movie? And I'm just, because I read it, focusing on it more, my takeaway seeing the movie, it wasn't that big of a focus.
Well, they left that subtitle off, didn't they?
They sure did.
No. I mean, there is a pivotal moment, and it's right in the trailer, not a spoiler, where Jesse Plemons shows up at the door of Leonardo DiCaprio, and he says, well, I'm with the FBI. And it's like, what the hell is that?
Right.
And we do get to see some agents at work in their nascent stages, and that's kind of interesting, but it is a small beat in a very, very long movie.
It really is.
So this is not the story of the birth of the FBI.
No.
And you don't get that sense of dread whatsoever.
Right.
I mean, it's a character movie. You're really focused on DiCaprio and I guess Lily Gladstone to a certain extent, but not much else. It's kind of like Sid and Nancy almost.
Right. I mean, in both senses of those two characters, DiCaprio's and Lily Gladstone's, you're wondering if they're both going to figure it out, like what exactly is happening.
Well, you kind of know DiCaprio's not gonna. His character is a bit of an idiot.
Right. And hats off to DiCaprio. The guy, he's a mega talent.
He plays an idiot like nobody else.
He's a mega talent. But it is funny because I think, like, can he pull off the dim-witted character? Because we've seen him play, Jordan Belfort in Wolf of Wall Street. He's a sharp-looking guy. Can he pull off sort of the dim-witted idiot? And I thought he did rather well.
He also, I mean, and I'm not saying Gilbert Grape actually Gilbert Grape was the brother. What was DiCaprio's name?
I think it was Arnie.
Arnie. He was mentally impaired, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not gonna say he was a dim-witted idiot. That would be wrong. I'm just saying that he played a character with mental impairment, right? Some challenges, and he was so convincing. Like, I almost thought that they had cast somebody who actually had mental difficulties in that role. So yeah, DiCaprio can play anything, dude.
He really can. Gladstone, the other one that you mentioned, she really is the face of the Osage for our viewing purposes. We see this character really melt down into almost nothing. And I thought that was a great metaphor itself of what was happening to the Osage in general. We're seeing that literally happen to a character. And avoiding spoilers here, you're seeing her just sort of decay as a person. And I thought that was a great metaphor for really the entire Osage kind of decaying from the evils that were around them and the greedy people that were behind all this.
Yeah, the vultures. Yeah. Although, yeah, there are frustrating moments in this film. Like, I don't want to give away any spoilers, so I'll just say that there's a meeting where they're discussing how people are circling like vultures, and it's so obvious to you as a viewer. You're like, what the hell? Like, you guys, come on, just was that how it really was? Was that in the book?
Like open up your eyes a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you felt frustrated, I think, as a viewer of the situation. Like, can't everybody see what's going on here?
Yeah, right. All right, I want to talk about the ending real quick.
Okay.
And this is, we got a tap dance, we got a tiptoe. I said he made a drastic choice. Didn't work for me. Did it work for you?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So
mixed bag, right?
Mixed bag. But, on my way home, that was the thing I focused on the most. Like, I couldn't get it out of my mind, the ending of the movie.
Okay.
I just kept focusing on it because that is definitely not in the book. That's obviously a Scorsese touch, and once people see the movie, they'll understand
it's a cinematic touch.
Right. So I was like, well, oh, that's really interesting. I was going home and thinking about it a lot, and I came away thinking that you're right. He's turning the focus on the storytellers, and the storyteller in this case not being Osage.
Yes.
And in a way that works. We're still at a point.
But does it?
Right. We're still at a point where this important story is being told, and I'm glad that it's being told, but I think we're still at this point. He's trying to say it's still not their story. They're still not being able to tell their story. It's still coming through the filter of, in this case, Martin Scorsese.
I agree.
Right? That's what he was going for.
Right. But that comes across to me empty. It does. I don't like the choice stylistically. I just didn't enjoy it stylistically.
So that's what I was going to say. I didn't either. That is where I would say I had the problem with it. Go on.
Okay. So we agree on that. Stylistically, didn't like it. But I get that what he's trying to go for there. But if that's the case, then you're Martin Scorsese. Elevate a native storyteller to make this picture, That you're Martin Scorsese. You put your name on it as the producer and find a Native American director to tell this story. Mm-hmm. I don't think what he did worked for me in either respect.
Yeah, it's one to definitely chew on.
I agree with you. So happy this story is getting told by somebody.
Right.
And that is great. But I'm not sure what he did there worked for me.
Very interesting choice, too.
Yeah. It's a very interesting choice. Especially
after that long
of a movie.
Film that we're in this world with these characters. And then when we get this
Yeah, we gotta
pipe it right there.
Yeah.
It is definitely a strange, and maybe we'll talk about it like at the end of the year when most people have seen this, and it'll come back up at some point.
This interesting you say that. Probably won't make my top 10. You mentioned the runtime. Did you feel it was earned, or did you feel like me this could have been shaved?
Too long. I agree with you. I was walking out of the theater with Tellerico. I went at the night screening, and Brian Tellerico was in there, and this girl Sarah, and we were splitting ways, and I was talking nice, and we said too long. We said, me and Sarah said, and that's how I felt right away too. You mentioned that this is an epic, but I don't know if it necessarily is an epic as much as it is just a very long movie. Epic usually feels like there's big battles, there's, a long time has passed, this kind of thing. In this sense, the story isn't that long.
No, it's like a year or two.
Right. And so
maybe like 10 years.
It
right?
really feels like just a long runtime. Maybe an hour is a bit extreme from you, but 35, 40 minutes. I mean, I think it could have went like 245, 250. That would have been fine. 3.5 hours is a long time for this movie.
Yeah, it is. I think he could have shaved it down to 2.5. I mean, to 2.
And again,
let's get it there.
Again, going back to the difference between the movie and the book, he spent so long leading up to one of the first murders. That happens in the book so fast. And I don't want to say which character, obviously, because we're spoiler free here. But the lead up to this one character, it happens rather quick in the book. And then this whole idea of like trying to solve the crimes and realizing how big the picture is.
There was like 20 murders, right?
But man, it took forever to get through this scene. I thought, man, I remember it happening in the first chunk of the book. Yeah. Man, this is going to take a long time. Yet when the FBI got there, that was drawn out in the book, and in here in the movie, went by rather quick.
Yeah, like bing, bang, boom.
Yeah, it's interesting how that happens.
All right, we didn't talk about De Niro. He's always great, but you know what, dude? I felt that there was a little something missing here from De Niro.
All right, so this is where we're going to disagree. I actually thought this was one of De Niro's best in the last few years. Honest to God. Obviously, he's getting weaker and weaker as the years go on. There haven't been like tons of strong performances in even the last like 10 years. I guess The Irishman was pretty solid for him. But man, I liked him here. He is very almost sweet on the outside and then menacing underneath the surface. And I like that from De Niro. He pulled it off, I thought, rather well. He was convincing that people would really like him and respect him within the community. And yet he was... root of evil, right? He's just a slimy guy underneath, and this is not a spoiler because it pops up right in the very beginning of the movie.
The trailer.
Yeah, and the trailer, and you get his motives. I thought he played it perfectly, to be honest. And to me, it actually felt like he had a little, like dipped in the fountain of youth a little bit. Lately, I've been thinking that, it's past De Niro's prime. He's just not hitting it anymore. I felt he dialed it back here, and he got, this was a little bit younger to De Niro in his step. To me, anyways. That's how it came across.
Well, I don't know what I missed, but and I'd say I would watch it again, but I'm never going to watch this movie again. I mean, I'm not sitting down that long again for this.
That always is the problem. We talked about it when, I don't know what we were talking about the Green Mile for a month or so back, but I talked about how I liked that movie, and I've never went back and watched it because it was 3 hours.
Yeah.
It's tough to sit down for a 3.5 hour movie,
All right, we didn't touch on the humor. There's a bright spot for me because I think bumbling criminals are always funny, and Scorsese does dark humor really well. He's a funny guy. He's a funny director. He's got comedic timing. What do you think of the humor in this movie?
It has its moments for sure. It's not
a comedy.
No, it's not a comedy. I mean, there's chuckles, like parts that you will laugh at, but I would say,
especially at DiCaprio's expense.
Right. But I would say like the Coen brothers do this even better.
Oh, well, yeah.
They're the masters at that, dim-witted criminals.
Nobody's saying that Scorsese's a comedy director.
Right.
But he does use humor pretty well for somebody who's done these like crime dramas,
Agreed. How about one small detail, since we're talking about DiCaprio's character and the way he looks?
Man, he contorts his face.
They got his teeth right too. Did you notice they did something with his teeth? Because oh yeah, they definitely gave him he must have been wearing like prosthetics the entire time. And I was so happy because a lot of times you get those movie star, smiles, and we're talking about a guy that's supposed to be, growing up rather poor, went to the army.
Oh yeah, they did do something with his teeth.
And his teeth, I thought, wow, really well done. I thought, all right. I mean, that was good look.
Yeah.
And his hair looked funny.
The way he contorts his face, where he juts out his lower jaw and he's kind of like frowning. DiCaprio's got like such an interesting face. Like I think of The Revenant, where he doesn't really talk much. Like I could just watch DiCaprio look into a camera for 2 hours. Mm-hmm. He's great. Mm-hmm. What about Oscars?
Oh man, I would say early prediction here.
Okay, go.
I was going to say that Killers of the Flower Moon is going to get a ton of Oscar nominations and win almost nothing.
Huh.
That would be my prediction right now. It's going to go against Oppenheimer, which is going to win on all the technical awards.
Adapted screenplay?
Perhaps.
I mean, nomination.
Yes, nominations. These are just nominations. I don't think it's going to win much.
Acting noms?
But I think
Lily Gladstone's getting nominated.
Yes, Lily deserves it, and she's really the face of the movie. Like I said, she really is representing the Osage.
I love her
in the film.
voice.
Oh, great. Very, wouldn't she be wonderful to read like a bedtime story? Like, so pleasant.
Yeah, I love her voice.
Yeah, beautiful. I think, believe it or not, I think De Niro might get supporting actor. I liked him that much. DiCaprio, as great as he is here, with his resume, I'm not positive this is strong enough DiCaprio performance to get him into the nominees, but I wouldn't be stunned if he did get nominated. It's that good of a performance. So I think those three might. Scorsese's always, once he makes a movie, might get
he's in the talk.
He's in the talk for getting nominated.
I don't see it
for director.
This is not a strong movie.
But for instance, if I'm just going off of Oppenheimer and Christopher Nolan, who's never won, and the Academy wants to get it, he's not going to edge out Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer for this, in my opinion. Not even a chance. So does he get nominated? Possibly. And then a lot of the costumes and stuff will be nominated, but I don't think it'll necessarily win.
All right. Jaw-dropping moment, Ryan.
For me, it's funny you actually mentioned that it's in the trailer. It is the scene where Jesse Plemons comes into town, knocks on that door, and DiCaprio opens up that door, and he's just like taken aback that someone is coming in from the federal government.
Right. He's like, are you a private investigator?
Right. No one knows what's going on.
Nobody knows what the FBI is.
Right. And they don't actually reference it as the FBI.
Right. They're just the Bureau of Investigation.
Right. No one's referring it to the FBI. They're like, well, I'm from the Bureau of Investigation. And that entire conversation between Plemons and DiCaprio, in which Plemons' character is trying to get Lily Gladstone's character to come talk, but DiCaprio is saying that she's too ill to get out of bed. That entire sequence between the two was fantastic. I love Plemons, right? I love the
Plemons
guy.
too.
And so he was great in there. DiCaprio's, at the top of his game, as we mentioned. Watching those two on screen, that was my jaw-dropping moment.
Mine is a quote, which goes back to what you were saying earlier about how the dread that the Osage felt not being able to turn to anybody. Somebody says, I think it's one of the agents is a Native American who's kind of like, going undercover. Says it's easier to convict a man for kicking his dog than killing an Indian.
I remember that one.
That just I was like, damn.
There were a couple of lines. There's another line in the movie where I believe it's DiCaprio is worried about his wife having secrets, and somebody turns to him and says, you let her have her secrets, then you have yours.
Yeah, that's De Niro that says it to DiCaprio.
Yeah, and it's just a searing line.
Well, he's manipulating everything in that scene.
He really is.
Yeah.
He really is.
The evil starts to come to bear.
Yeah.
You got a movie poster quote?
Hold on. Before I get to the movie poster quote, two other things I need to bring up.
Okay.
Brendan Fraser. I know you mentioned him at the top.
Almost a spoiler, right? But he's in the synopsis.
He is in the synopsis, and I think most people out there know that he is going to be in the movie.
I didn't know, and it was a surprise for me.
Oh, okay. He just came off winning the Academy Award, so you're always anticipating when someone wins, best
where are they
actor,
going to be next?
Where are they going to be next? He lands in. I'm sure he's happy as hell to be in a Scorsese, DiCaprio, De Niro movie here. But it's a minor role. What?
Part.
It's what? Dude, you won an Academy Award. You're going to get 3 lines in this movie? Come on.
What about John Lithgow?
I was taken aback. I even wrote a question mark. I wasn't positive it was him because I was so shocked.
Oh, how could you not recognize Lithgow in that voice?
I knew it eventually. I'm not saying I didn't. But at first I thought, what, is he going to be in this little bit part also? I liked him. And I'm always glad to see Lithgow. Don't get me wrong.
It was the exact same roles as Laura Dern and Ray Liotta in A Marriage Story.
No. They had juicy roles. She won an Academy Award for hers.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, they have big scenes. This Brendan Fraser has maybe a total of 25 words in the movie.
Yeah. All right. I'm giving that to you. I concede the point. You're right.
Nice. All right. Now on to our movie poster quotes. I went with a masterfully made history lesson. That might be too long.
Yeah. Mine is simple. Killers of the Flower Moon is too long, so I'll keep my quote short. How many jaws, Ryan?
It sounds almost like we're poo-pooing on this, so I don't want to poo-poo because
I'm still bad.
No,
movie.
it is not. I'm going strong.
Okay.
3 jaws, but for me, I was anticipating maybe this was going to be near my favorite of the year. So it was a bit of a disappointment on that level. Still a solid movie. 3 jaws. You?
I think this is not. I think Marty needs to reel it in. I'm giving it 2.5 jaws. It's too long. Doesn't need to be that long, and I'm taking points away for that.
Jawheads, it opens up on the 20th of October in theaters everywhere. I just read an article. This will be the biggest release as far as theaters, in theaters of Martin Scorsese's career. It'll play in something like 4,000 theaters across the country. It'll then go to Apple TV, I believe, late November.
It'll get its eyeballs.
Oh, yeah. Many people are going to go out and see this. So
it's not going to be the next Barbenheimer, though. It's just not. We'll see what happens.
What they maybe needed to do was release this and Napoleon on the same weekend.
That would have been cool.
And we could have called it...
I don't know. I got to think on that one, man.
Napoleon Killer.
I think we got to workshop that.
I don't know. We'll come up with something.
Yeah.
So in honor of Killers of the Flower Moon, we decided to do our top 5 favorite Scorsese Scenes. And as we said, we
so
did
many
some
good
homework.
ones.
And yeah, there's a lot of great ones. It is funny. I went back and I've seen everything since 1999 onward of Scorsese's filmography.
Good for you.
So that's pretty solid. The early work, I still, like I said, mentioned I think on the last podcast, I really want to see King of Comedy.
I haven't seen King of Comedy.
Which we'll hopefully do a retro review on.
I want to do that.
And then there's a couple of others, but I've hit all the main ones, so this should be pretty fun.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to get started or do you want me to?
I'll get started if you want.
Sure.
My number 5 pick comes from Gangs of New York. And this one was spoiled earlier because I set up the clip. I believe it was the first clip we did of Martin Scorsese month.
Yeah.
And I played this exact scene. But in this time, I want to go into a little bit more detail. I remember reading an article that Scorsese really wanted to make this movie, Gangs of New York, and he felt that it would just be no chance it would ever be made because he actually wanted to build sets to show the 5 points of New York. And it was going to cost an exorbitant amount of money. He didn't think any studio would back this kind of movie. And lo and behold, DiCaprio became this humongous star, started working with Scorsese, and he more or less got it greenlit because studios were willing to back a movie that had DiCaprio in it, and they were willing to give Scorsese all of a sudden like $150 million to make this movie. And I think the beauty of seeing where that money got spent is this opening shot where we get this massive fight in the very beginning of the movie on the 5 points between these rival gangs, one of them led by Bill the Butcher, played by Daniel Day-Lewis, the other one by Liam Neeson, who plays a priest. He's got his gang going. And the introduction to Bill the Butcher is fantastic. The camera of this in the scene opens up just on the 5 points with nobody on it, building, dilapidated, falling down, and it's snow-covered grounds. And then people start to come out of the buildings, and we get a shot of the feet of Bill the Butcher, and then we pan up, and it's just Daniel Day-Lewis in all his glory. He goes on to give this great speech, and a huge battle takes place, and the snow that we just saw out there is now covered in blood from people getting stabbed. And Bill the Butcher's out there with a butcher knife. And
I think he has a cleaver, doesn't he?
He has a cleaver and a butcher knife.
What a weird guy.
And ends up killing the priest, and that ends up setting the whole movie into motion as DiCaprio is the priest's son.
That's another one I got to rewatch. I have seen it right when it came out, and I never rewatched it. How old is that movie?
I think it came out in I'm going to take
late
a
90s?
stab. Throw it in the fish tank. When did Gangs of New York come out? I'm going to say you might be right, or it's like early 2000s.
I'd say late 90s.
I'm going to say early 2000s, but
Okay.
it's I'll say 2002.
I would go like 98.
All right. Want to put a dollar on the table?
Yeah, sure. Here we go.
I hit a single here. Hold on. There we go. Dollars out on the table. 2002, you got 98.
Okay, closest 2 wins?
Sounds good.
All right. I'm going with Goodfellas at number
Whoa,
5.
At number 5.
I'm not saying Goodfellas the movie. I'm just talking about this particular scene. This is it's really a pair of scenes, but you need you need the one to have the other, and I believe there's even a scene in between. It is Spider at the poker game. So there's this low-ranking young gangster named Spider, who's still at the point in his career where he's fetching drinks for the older guys who are sitting around the card table playing. And Joe Pesci's character, who's an absolute psychopath, doesn't like Spider and keeps giving him shit. And he's like, "Go get me a drink." And he takes out his gun and he says, "Dance," and he starts shooting at his feet, and he winds up hitting Spider. Then in the second scene, Spider gets the gumption to say, "Hey, why don't you shut up?" He says something else, but I don't want to swear too much. And so they're all like, "Oh, you're going to take that? You're going to take that?" And Pesci takes out his .45 and just pow, 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 kills the kid. Just kills him in cold blood. And he's like, De Niro's character is like, "You maniac, like, what's wrong with you?" And he's like, you're gonna dig the hole. And he's like, I don't care, I'll dig the hole. Where are the shovels? You think it's the first hole I dug?
Pesci is fantastic in that movie. Oh my goodness.
Pesci's amazing.
I watched a few scenes, in preparation of this list.
Was that a contender?
It was. And I ended up watching about 10 scenes on YouTube of Goodfellas. Just because,
whole movie.
Right. I was like, oh, and then there's this one and this one. Yeah, great one.
The whole movie.
Good
All right.
stuff.
What you got?
My number 4, I went with one of his later movies here, a movie we haven't really talked about since it came out, and it is The Irishman. And there was one scene in this movie that I absolutely loved, and I went back and I watched it again today. And it is a lunch meeting that is taking place between Jimmy Hoffa and we got De Niro's character there, Frank. But they're waiting on Tony Pro, who is a Italian mobster who is going to back Jimmy Hoffa. And Jimmy Hoffa is there to get his support.
And they don't like each other.
And they don't like each other. And they're sitting there, it's Frank and Jimmy Hoffa. So you got Al Pacino and Robert De Niro sitting at the table, and they're waiting on Tony Pro. And he is just pissed, right? He's like, who is late for a meeting? This is how it starts. And they're dressed in their 3-piece suits, looking nice, right? And where the hell is this guy? 10 minutes already, and here he comes in, and he's in shorts and like basically like a tennis outfit. Like he just came from playing tennis. And you can just tell he feels disrespected, and the body language between the two is fantastic. And the conversation, you could feel the tension in the room, and of course, all hell breaks loose. And the two men start fighting on the ground at one point. It's awesome.
That is a great scene. That's another movie I didn't like as much from De Niro.
It's funny because rewatching just that scene, that's the only scene I watched today of The Irishman, unlike Goodfellas that I saw so many. I just watched that particular scene, and I thought to myself, I'm going to go ahead and maybe rewatch this movie. I think on multiple rewatches, I would actually like it more. Sometimes we're anticipating something so much, and when it doesn't live up to it, we're disappointed. But then let it sit, and then just go back and watch it. And I think there's some quality there, because I enjoyed.
Oh, of course, there's quality.
I really
there.
enjoyed watching that scene again today, and me describing it. You know the one that I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, that is probably my favorite scene in the whole movie. But there are awesome. a lot of good scenes. Pacino should have been in more Scorsese movies. Mm-hmm. He fits so well into that. All right, at number 4, I am going with an absolute iconic scene that was ad-libbed by De Niro, and pretty much is the line that he is most associated with, and it is the scene from Taxi Driver.
You talking to me? You talking to me? You talking to me? Well, then who the hell else are you talking to? Talking to me? Well, I'm the only one here. Who the fuck do you think you're talking to?
I love that. Travis Bickle, De Niro's character, is kind of coming unhinged. He's built this gun that works on like a closet slide, and like if he shakes his arm out, like the gun...
It comes out of his sleeve, right?
Comes out of his sleeve into his hand, which as a kid, I saw Taxi Driver way too young. As a kid, I thought that was so cool. You know, like a little quick draw machine that he has with a little holdout pistol. And him practicing with that gun in the mirror, and are you talking to me? You talking to me? It's just such a absolute, like, who doesn't know that scene? Mm-hmm. You know, it's something that's like indelibly burned into my brain. Like I can just think about it and love it.
It's a great one.
Just De Niro by himself.
There's no doubt. It'll play always when we're talking about like Robert De Niro.
Yeah,
it'll always play.
Oh,
and
yeah.
when we're talking about Scorsese, they'll always play that scene. It'll always just be in the montage.
Yeah. Did you know it wasn't scripted?
I did not know that.
Yeah. Found that out today myself.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. My number 3 again comes from a later pick, and it's another DiCaprio movie, and it's The Wolf of Wall Street.
Great movie.
I believe you have a Wolf of Wall Street coming up also, correct?
I might. So
I decided to pick one scene that I don't think you have on your list, and this is the scene where Jordan Belfort, DiCaprio's character, has already been busted, and they want him out of the leadership of the company.
Yeah.
And he is going to now address the entire office, the brokerage,
and say goodbye.
And this really shows you how charismatic DiCaprio is as an actor. But he gets in front of this crowd, and he gets on the microphone, and he does actually start to say goodbye. And the beginning of the scene is quite sad. It's actually a little bit of emotional. He calls out this one woman and he says, she came to me, needing money when we were starting this company, and I gave her this money to help, her kid get to school, or whatever the story is. And people are crying that he's all done and he's leaving. And then he himself starts to talk himself out of leaving. I do think his character, when he starts, is thinking, I'm done. And as he's saying his goodbye, he realizes that by saying bye, that the FBI got the best of him.
Right.
And he can't let that happen. And as he's saying his goodbye, it turns into they're going to need a wrecking ball to get me out of here. They're going to need a wrecking ball to get me out of here. And the place starts going nuts, right? Yeah. And what I noticed Scorsese does is he does a lot of quick edits, but I think what helps make that scene work so well is he does these like spin moves with the camera so that you feel that you're seeing action take place at the same exact time in the room. So you're getting like the reaction of these two people, and then the camera quickly spins and you get the reaction of like the person, Oh, wow. I didn't notice that.
It's like a whip pan, right?
A whip pan constantly going on, and it adds something to the energy of that scene. And all the reactions, people are flipping people off, they're hugging. I mean, it's just hilarious. Man, it's great. And they all end with the pounding of the chest that Matthew McConaughey did in the beginning of the film. What a movie Wolf of Wall Street is.
That scene is another great one with McConaughey.
Sure is.
Not the one I put on my list, but that was another little McConaughey scene that will probably follow his career forever, right? All the things he's done, he's in that movie for 10 minutes.
Right. And it's such an iconic moment.
Iconic. All right, my number 3, I am going with a quieter scene. There's another Joe Pesci. Man, I love Joe Pesci. I'm going with Casino. When he is talking to, oh my God, I forget this character's name, Phil, throw it in the fish tank. He is also the guy that plays the character in Office Space who's like, I'm a people person, goddammit. What the hell is wrong with you people? Do you remember that? He gets interviewed by the Bobs in Office Space, and they're like, do you actually talk to the customers? He's like, well, no, my secretary does that. You know who I'm talking about?
I know who you're talking about.
Okay.
I don't know the actor, though.
So that actor is playing the banker, and they're in Sam's house, who's De Niro's character, and Pesci comes in, and he's got a little deal going with this banker, and he's like, yeah, I think I want my money back. And he's like, well, I'm sorry, you can't have your money back. And Pesci launches into this speech. He's like,
I think you got the wrong impression about me. I think in all fairness, I should explain to you exactly what it is that I do. For instance, tomorrow morning, I'll get up nice and early, take a walk down over to the bank and walk in and see you. And if you don't have my money for me, I'll crack your fucking head wide open in front of everybody in the bank. And just about the time that I'm coming out of jail, hopefully, you'll be coming out of your coma. And guess what? I'll split your fucking head open again. Because I'm fucking stupid. I don't give a fuck about jail. That's my business. That's what I do. And we know what you do, don't we, Charlie? You fuck people out of money and get away with it.
It's just a great scene. Just the way he slowly builds up that psychopathy, Nobody does that like Pesci. Such a small guy and so menacing at the same time. Like, I'd be scared as hell to meet Joe Pesci.
I agree, especially after watching these clips.
Like, Robert De Niro, if I ever met him in real life, he could be an intimidating person, no doubt. But I think I would be okay. Pesci, I would be shit scared. I mean, I would be absolutely terrified to meet him. Like, I would think he might actually kill me, Take me out back and
I love it.
Put me in a hole in the desert, Rye.
I only seen Casino one time.
Oh, that's a good one. That's one I've seen like 3 or 4 times. And it's a longer one.
That is a longer one.
I like it. I think it works.
Interesting. All right, those were our top 3. Let's take a break now.
Okay.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Come back, we'll do our top 2 plus play Stump the Kabinski.
Sounds good.
Let's all go to the lobby.
Speaking of great Martin Scorsese scenes, we cannot gloss over another Joe Pesci scene from the iconic film Goodfellas. Here is the How Am I Funny scene.
You're a big cop.
Really funny. Really funny.
What do you mean I'm funny?
It's funny, it's a good story. It's funny. You're a funny guy.
What do you mean? You mean the way I talk? What?
It's just, you're just funny. It's You know, the way you tell the story and everything.
Funny how? I mean, what's funny about it?
Yeah, Tommy, no, you got it all wrong.
Oh, Anthony. He's a big boy. He knows what he said. What'd you say?
You're right.
Funny how? What?
Just, you know, you're funny.
You mean,
So?
well, let me understand this, because maybe it's me, I'm a little up, maybe. But I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you. I make you laugh. I'm here to fucking amuse you. What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
Not just, you know how you tell the story. What?
No, I don't know. You said it. How do I know? You said I'm funny. How the fuck am I funny? What the fuck is so funny about me? Tell me. Tell me what's funny.
Sparkling drinks, sparkling drinks, sparkling dandy, 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 dandy.
And we are back on Cinemajaw. Matt, before we play some trivia and finish up our top 5 list, we threw quite a few items into the fish tank. Let's open it up.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! No, Pat, it's a giant glass bowl. Hey, get some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Thank you. It is really, really good. We had 3 in here this week, which is always good to see. Our first one, when is We Grown Now going to be distributed from Sony? Obviously, it's currently on its theatrical run. I didn't have an exact date or like location. That's the thing that I was really frustrated with, is that because it's a small Sony.
Film, yeah.
Well, and because it's Sony, it's not like Apple picked it up or HBO picked it up or
it's Sony
Paramount
Classics
picked
too.
it up.
Yeah.
Like it could be anywhere. So I don't, other than saying like keep listening.
It's not going to be on
us.
Netflix, right?
Right. Like I can't, I don't know where and when yet, which I realize is like the most underwhelming answer I could have possibly had.
Any info on the theatrical run? Like when is it going to hit?
I mean, it's doing the festival run now, but I don't know.
Yeah. Other than it just said initial release September 8th at TIFF. Where else? It's not super clear yet.
Okay.
But
We'll
I mean,
keep
if
an
you
eye
live in
out
a
for
major
it.
city, yeah. I mean, the TIFF, CIF, wherever you are,
Yeah, do it. If you get a chance to see this one, I recommend it.
I do too. So.
Ooh, the next one's really exciting. Because, okay, it's when did Gangs of New York come out?
Oh, this is what the dollars are on the table for.
Yes. It's like we're having a mini cinema war, but with like less content and higher stakes. It's really, really good.
All right.
Well, I hate losing to Matt, period, but I hate losing money to him. So.
So Matt was saying that it came out in 98.
Yeah.
And Ryan was saying in 2002.
Yeah.
And the trickster in me really wanted to say 2000 just to make this a draw, because the new rule that I had added in my head is that if it was 2000 while I was looking it up, I thought I should get that money.
Split, yeah.
That's a good idea. House wins. If it's 2000, house wins.
But the film came out. There is a clear winner who is not me. The film came out in the year 2002.
Yes! Wow,
Ryan
you nailed
was
it. You nailed
absolutely
it.
right.
All right.
Thank you.
Shake hands.
Shake hands.
All
And
right.
I'm taking this money.
There you go. It's all
Hold
yours.
We should
Thank you,
do this
buddy.
more. I loved this.
I
This
like-
was super exciting.
Yeah, it's fun.
Let's do this. Whenever there's an argument, let's bet a little bit of money.
Okay.
Because I'm on a
makes
roll
it
now.
interesting.
I
yeah.
got $2 in my pocket.
I love to gamble.
I got my $2.
There you go. You're the paper boy from Better Off Dead.
Maybe bring in poker chips.
Yeah, that'll make it nice and easy.
Yeah.
Makes a good sound, too.
Yeah. And then we'll pay something out for off the chips or something.
Do you know how to shuffle poker chips?
No.
Okay, I'll teach you.
All right.
You won't have to teach him because you're always going to win, right, Matt?
Well, yeah.
Hey, I won today. And I'm blowing my $2 on my way home.
There you go.
The last one we had, who is the actor who was both in Matt's Casino pick for number 3 and was in Office Space? That would be, and I hope I'm saying this right, Richard Ryle? Real?
Yeah.
Riehle.
Is he a that guy?
He's a bit of a that guy. Those are definitely his two biggest, like, that guy moments. Like, that's what he's known for, is being that guy in Office Space and that guy. He's got a pretty decently sized role in Office Space, if you remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then, in Casino, he's kind of a small character. He's only in like 1 or 2 scenes. So, but he pops up here and there.
This is my cool fact, he's been in over 200 movies.
Oh, he's a that guy.
He's a that guy. Yeah. But we're only talking about, and we don't know his name or how to pronounce it.
He's definitely a that guy then.
Yeah. Over 200. Wow.
All right. Was that everything?
That's all we have for me.
Well, we are still in the fish tank. Let's get to that poll result, Matt. I threw it out there on the Twitter, and I want to hear where you guys would cast your vote. Again, what is your favorite Marty collaboration between the two, Marty and Robert De Niro or Marty and Leonardo DiCaprio? We'll start with you, Matt K.
This is tough, man. This is Sophie's choice if ever there was one. I have to pick one of these guys. I can't just say Joe Pesci and cheat.
Gotta pick. Where you cast your vote?
I don't know, man. That is a really tough call. But for all the reasons I said before, I think you got to go De Niro. I really do. He's in the big ones. He's in the heavy hitters. He's got the most iconic scenes so far. DiCaprio's still got a little ways to go. Don't know how much further Marty's got to go. Got a couple more in him, I bet. But I'm going De Niro. How about you? Let's go to Phil.
I think, okay, my grounds for this are purely rooted on my prime Marty Scorsese viewing era. I'm not super familiar with a lot of the stuff he was doing before I was alive. And for that reason, I don't think I'm the only person doing this. Maybe I am, I don't know, but I'm going DiCaprio.
That's not a bad choice,
No,
really. Yeah.
It really isn't. I'm torn between the two as well. And if I'm being honest, I actually casted a vote on Twitter on our own poll, and I actually casted for DiCaprio. Partly because I thought he was the underdog here. I did. I wanted to make sure
he got something.
Yeah, but he ended up getting a lot of votes
here. Before you tell your vote, let's find out what the Jawhead said.
All right, so we go to the tail of the tape here, Matt. As it stands right now,
I feel like Steve Kornacki here.
The winner of the poll is Robert De Niro. 66% of the vote.
It's
Meanwhile,
close.
Marty and Leonardo DiCaprio, 34% of the vote.
It's close. So, do you stick with your DiCaprio or are you a De Niro guy? In your heart?
I really am torn. I am more familiar, actually, with the DiCaprio collaboration.
Era.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? You got The Departed. You got Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah.
The Aviator. Gangs of New York. These are films that I've seen.
Shutter Island,
one of your favorites.
That's a great one.
Several times. Not that I haven't seen like a Goodfellas, Taxi Driver, but even like Taxi Driver, I think I've seen it 2 times in my life. I have not seen it like I've seen Wolf of Wall Street
but
Goodfellas.
The Departed.
But Goodfellas, I've seen a ton, but I don't even feel that's De Niro as much as it is
Ray Liotta
and Joe Pesci.
And Pesci, yeah.
That's who. Not that De Niro's not great in there. He is, but it doesn't feel like a De Niro movie.
He's definitely of the three, the lower,
of those 3.
Yeah. Now, when I say lower, I mean he's used less.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Takes a back seat.
Next week on the show, it's Halloween season, so maybe we're going to look at a horror movie. There's also...
We should, man. We only did one horror episode.
I know. So we'll probably do something horror related. There's also a great documentary opening up on Apple TV called The Pigeon Tunnel about a spy that I think is right up Matt K's alley.
Really?
I think we should review it.
Is he a compassionate spy?
No, but we have a link for it, so we can watch that. And we'll see what else we're going to go from there.
Okay, we can always pick a horror movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
The Exorcist, by the way, I know you had this terrible story about how you didn't get to see The Exorcist.
Right.
Turns out it's getting panned.
I know. Like it's rotten on the tomato.
Somebody
I'm glad.
walked out of it. I can't remember, like a Chicago film critic just like up and walked out.
I'm glad. I mean, if a movie's gonna not work for me and I'm not gonna be able to hear it, at least it's a crapper of a movie.
It's a crapper.
That's
I
good.
wisely skipped that one.
That's good. That's everything. So jump back in that fish tank.
You bet.
We're rounding out our top 5 list of Martin Scorsese scenes, and we left off at my number 2 pick, Matt. And I go with my 2 heavy hitters here, and I have Robert De Niro at number 2. Raging Bull.
Yeah. Which scene?
So I rewatched a couple. Now, have you seen Raging Bull?
Oh, yes, I've seen Raging Bull.
Here's another example. I've seen Raging Bull one time, and man, did it stick with me.
I've seen it like twice. I own it.
I rewatched 2 scenes, and these are really... They go together, so it's almost like a cheat here of the two. But this is when Jake
LaMotta.
Jake LaMotta,
I think
Robert
that's
De Niro's
his name.
Character, is starting to get jealous and worried that his wife is cheating on him.
I heard things.
Yeah. So at first, he accuses his brother, Joey, played by Joe Pesci. And I love this particular scene of the two. You can feel the tension in the room. But the scene where I remember being like almost struck by the realism of it and just disturbed is the scene where he then now accuses his wife of cheating. And she very sarcastically says, "Oh, I cheated on you with so-and-so, so-and-so, and Joey." She names like 3 people. And he hits her right in the face. I mean, it's very violent. You know, you're shocked by the abuse. And he then comes out of the apartment and walks over to Joey's apartment. And Pesci's there with his family having dinner. And he just grabs him and all hell breaks loose right in the family dining room. And it's black and white, and some of the angles that Scorsese uses, he's like shooting down on the ground. I think it's the first time we see that famous shot that he uses of the camera's down on the ground looking up as someone's kicking you.
Yeah.
They use it in Goodfellas. They use it in Casino. The first time I think we see it is in this particular shot. And you see him kick basically like what looks like Joe Pesci down on the ground. You're seeing it from his view. And I'm like, wow, what an interesting camera angle. Great scene. It's just a wonderful movie.
Oh, yeah. It's a brutal movie,
It
too.
is.
Some of the boxing scenes in that. Like when he's like, come on, and he's on the ropes and he's just getting his face destroyed, and they show like the blood spraying in slow motion and the people in the audience getting covered in his blood. Amazing. The scene in particular you're talking about is the other probably most famous line from De Niro's career, right? Like, I heard things.
Right.
I heard things.
And another movie that needed to be in black and white. That movie wouldn't work nearly as well if that was shot in color.
I agree.
You know?
Yeah. Most of the time when people shoot in black and white, it's like, you're just going for style points. Like, come on, get off your high horse and just make a movie regular. But when Marty did it here, I think it works better in black and white.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. There's something about, like I said, those scenes where he gets very violent.
Especially the boxing scenes, too.
Right. It just feels real. There's something about it that when you're watching, I think the color would show through some of like that we're watching a movie.
You know what I think is weird about it? Because when you think about black and white movies, you think about old movies, even old like Hitchcock movies like Psycho or The Birds. Birds was in color. Psycho. They pull their punches, right? You don't see that level of violence in a black and white movie. So when you see violence like in Raging Bull in black and white, there's some kind of weird like mental disconnect. It doesn't feel right. Like I thought I was watching an old movie, and here's some like real
contemporary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though that movie's pretty old, man.
It is.
What year do you have
80,
it?
I believe.
80?
1980.
Yeah, that sounds right. All right. I'm going with one of his more recent films, very recent, in fact. We reviewed it here on The Jaw when it came out, The Wolf of Wall Street, and I am going with the lemons, the Ludes with the delayed timer.
This was the scene I left off my list because I figured you would have it.
Holy crap. One of the most... We were talking about Martin Scorsese's humor. One of the funniest scenes in any movie, period. I just think it's hilarious. Him and Jonah Hill are exercising. Well, he's exercising. Jordan Belfort, DiCaprio's character. They take these Ludes, which is like, they have this whole scene that leads...
Quaaludes,
right. Yeah. They have this whole scene that leads up to it, talking about the stages of getting high on Ludes. And they don't work. So they take 2 more with a shot of whiskey, and then he gets a really important phone call that tells him, get out of the house. Your phone is tapped. You got to call me back from a payphone. So he gets in his Ferrari, or is a Lamborghini? A Lamborghini. Goes down the street. He's like, the nearest payphone was at the country club. So he goes into the lobby of the country club, takes the phone call, and then like halfway through the call, the guy's like, I can't understand you. Are you high? And then he just hits the ground. He's like, I went right past the drool stage, straight to the cerebral palsy stage. And then he has to crawl to his Lamborghini and like with his feet open the door. It's just so funny, man. It's ridiculous.
Oh, God, that scene. I remember seeing it in the theater and everybody just losing it.
It was pissing in my pants.
It was hysterical, man.
Holy shit. I love that movie.
Yeah, that is great. I mean, that movie absolutely rocks, man. Wolf of Wall Street. Good pick.
I got to rewatch that one. This is just making me want to rewatch all these movies.
I agree. My number one pick. We've mentioned the film already. I didn't know where to go. You could literally, I think, pick almost any scene in this movie and put it on a top 5 list. It is from Goodfellas. It is my favorite gangster / mobster movie, hands down. It is.
It's one of my favorite movies.
If I had to pick, you put a gun to my head and said, right now you got to pick your favorite Scorsese, I always got to go with Goodfellas.
Oh, yeah.
It's just my go-to. So I ended up going with the very beginning of the movie. The actual introduction to the Goodfellas.
The opening?
I love the opening of this movie. It opens up, and you get the famous line of Ray Liotta. The voiceover is done by Ray Liotta, but he slams the trunk down.
Well, there's a lot that happens before.
Right, there's a lot that happens before, but I'm really picking up right at this point. And you got the bloody clothes and what's in the trunk, and he slams down the trunk and he says, "Ever since I can remember, I wanted to be a gangster." And bam, we go into this backstory of the younger Ray Liotta's character as a boy looking out of the blinds and talking about watching the gangsters of the neighborhood and how cool they were and how nobody bothered them. And they could double park in front of a hydrant and no one would get a ticket. And they're watching the people come out, Tony Cicero and so coming out of the car, and Paulie is there already. They show Paulie, and it ends where I would say this scene ends is with this the kid version lighting the cars on fire. And he pours gasoline all in the cars, and he lights them up, and we get this awesome explosion, and the film stops. It pauses with the explosion behind him and the kids running away from the cars blowing up. And the voiceover, though, continues, and he says,
One day, some of the kids from the neighborhood carried my mother's groceries all the way home. You know why? It was out of respect.
Out of respect, Matt Kay.
Yeah.
That's the line right there.
It almost made me want to be a gangster.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. And I just think that is such the perfect introduction to this movie that you're about to see, Goodfellas. It's just an awesome, awesome ride from there on out.
It is. Goodfellas is also my number one. I bookended it, kind of. I guess it wasn't my number 5. Oh, it was. Yeah. It's my 5 and my 1, Ryan. And that's an amazing scene. There's so many great scenes from the Goodfellas. There's the long shot where they're going through the hall.
We've talked about that one on the Jaw.
Yeah,
our favorite long takes. Absolutely incredible.
There's, oh man, I'm just trying to pick another one. I had one in my brain. There's so many. Anyway, did you know that his character is the same character from My Blue Heaven, the Steve Martin character?
I think I heard that.
Yeah, same character. But I'm going with Go Get Your Shine Box. You know what I'm talking about? So they're in the bar that I think one of the partners at the bar is Robert De Niro's character. Doesn't matter. Frank Vincent, the actor, is there, and he's playing a made man, right? So this is, and they explain it in the film, a rank in the mob where once you're a made man, you can't be touched by other gangsters or there's serious consequences. But this guy Frank Vincent plays is very disrespectful to Joe Pesci's character, which isn't a good thing, as we saw earlier when he kills Spider. He does not take criticism kindly, right? So there's a fight. He's saying you're running your mouth, and he tells this whole story about this guy used to shine my shoes. You wouldn't believe it. He made them look like mirrors, and he's like, maybe you didn't hear. I don't shine shoes anymore. Such a great scene. The tension. They managed to calm everything down, and then he says, "Hey, go get your shine box." He's, "You motherfucker, you!" And he's like, they have to hold him off, and that's what ties back around to your scene,
right?
It all comes back full circle because that's what's in the trunk.
Right.
He comes back and they do a murder, and it's pretty vicious and violent.
It is.
And then they go to get spaghetti at his mother's house. He's like, "Ma, can I borrow this butcher knife?"
And that's actually Scorsese's mom.
That's right.
Right. Who plays it in the movie. I love that scene.
That is a great scene. And then they go and your scene, it comes full circle to the beginning of the movie. And that's kind of the pivot of the movie when everything starts to go wrong after that. Wonderful scene. Wonderful scene. Just the tension in that scene.
Honorable mentions. You mentioned Shutter Island. And I want to watch it actually this Halloween because it's got like a horror vibe to it.
Oh, definitely.
And the reveal. How about the reveal?
Such a gut punch.
When we realize why everything is lined up here and we understand what happened in DiCaprio's, the character's past that led him to this situation. Wow, it's a devastating reveal. And the way it's filmed with Michelle Williams and, the fire and everything that's going on in that scene visually. I gotta rewatch it. So fantastic. So that was an honorable mention of mine that I did want to get on the list or at least mention on the show.
Yeah, brutal scene, man.
Jawheads, if we missed your favorite Martin Scorsese scene and you have X, Twitter pulled up, shoot us a tweet or an X, whatever it's called, or an email, feedback@cinemajaw.com. We are now about to play some trivia, Matt K.
I'm ready. I'm going to turn my phone off.
Good. We call it Stump the Kabinski here. Matt needs to get 3 or more correct. If not, he has blown it.
I got this.
You got this, right?
Yeah.
We are playing Flower Moon movie trivia in honor of Killers of the Flower Moon. Question number 1 over to you, Matt.
My prediction, Ryan's going to have mostly moon questions. He's a big space guy.
Question 1, Broken Flowers.
Damn it.
Came out in 2005 and was about the extremely withdrawn Don Johnston, who is dumped by his latest woman, and he receives an anonymous letter from a former lover informing him that he has a son who may be looking for him. Which SNL alumni played the lead Don Johnston in Broken Flowers? This was a Jim Jarmusch film, I believe.
This is a number 1, Ryan?
Question 1.
Broken Flowers, SNL alumni, Seth Meyers.
That, my friends, is incorrect. We're looking for Bill Murray.
Okay.
Bill Murray. Question 2. Who voices the computer Gertie in the 2009 movie Moon? Sam Rockwell played the lead.
Right.
He was the only actor in the movie.
It's Duncan Bowie.
Right.
Duncan Jones.
But who voiced the computer Gertie in that movie?
Okay, so my knee jerk is to say Scarlett Johansson, but that's wrong. She was the voice of the computer in Her. Who is the voice of Gertie in that? Morgan Freeman.
We were looking for Kevin Spacey.
Really?
Kevin Spacey.
Interesting.
0 for 2. So Matt needs the next 3 correct to not be stumped. Not looking good here, Matt K. Question 3. Name the 2012 movie that starred Emma Watson, Ezra Miller, and Logan Lerman.
2003?
2012.
12. Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Correct. He is on the board. I like it. Needs these next 2. Question 4. Matt, Donald Sutherland, Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, Michael Pena all starred in this 2022 film last year that was directed by Roland Emmerich.
Give me that cast one more time.
Donald Sutherland, Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, Michael Pena.
Wow. Last year.
And it came out in 2002, and it was directed by Roland Emmerich. And if I'm not mistaken, we celebrated Roland Emmerich month when this movie came out, which was an odd choice for us. I am correct on that, aren't I, Phil?
Yes. That's when I learned who Roland Emmerich was.
Moonraker.
Oh my God, I thought you were going to get it right.
It's It's Moon something.
Moonfall.
Moonfall. Yeah. That was a real dud.
The moon falls. I mean, it falls. It turns out that it's not actually a moon. It's,
Oh, I thought it was like going to be picking up leaves in its garden.
No. All right. We have stumped Matt. He can only get 2 right.
That happens from time to time.
Matt, last question to you. Jim Carrey played Andy Kaufman in Man on the Moon in 1999.
That was going to be the question.
Which actor played his talent agent, George Shapiro, in the movie?
Paul Giamatti.
Incorrect. But boy, I know you were thinking the right thing. Not Paul Giamatti, though. We were looking for Danny DeVito. Danny DeVito was in it.
Was it Man on the Moon?
Man on the Moon.
Wow, I really thought that was Paul Giamatti.
No.
Interesting.
Yeah. Danny DeVito.
I met Tony Clifton,
So you said.
Yeah, I've told that story before.
Right. But I don't know. It was a phony Tony Clifton.
No, it's depending on who you ask, it's the real Tony Clifton. It was one of the weirdest episodes of my life, you guys. I will tell you the whole story. I got pictures to prove it.
Oh, man. Let's go to the bar. You can tell us again.
All right.
Matt was stumped this week. He only got 1 correct, unfortunately. That means you blew it, Matt.
You blew it!
I'm sorry, but you did.
All right. What would have played if I got it right?
Nothing.
It's just Seth Rogen laughing?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, it's pretty funny if you're right. It's hilarious.
Yeah. We're still working on that.
All right, we got to get a positive one on the board.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Matt does so bad. We're always telling him he blew it, but we're never telling him. We're never laughing at him.
Thank you. Appreciate it, you guys. Yeah. You should laugh at me more.
We love to laugh. It brings us to the end of a great jaw. And first and foremost, we got to thank Filmy and Phil.
I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Thanks,
on a Friday night. I never get to say on a Friday night.
I know. It is Friday night.
I know. Gonna have some beers now. Have a good time.
Hell yeah.
We also got to thank our Patreons, the one that support the show. It means the world to us. If you want to join us over on Patreon, go over to patreon.com/Cinemajaw, and you can support us at any level that you want to.
There's bonus content.
Yes, we are going to review King of Comedy.
Yeah.
You down?
I'm down. I'm down for that. We should come up with some new bonus stuff for the patrons to do. That's our challenge for next week. I got some ideas, Ryan.
I love when you have ideas.
For the patrons to take control of the show.
Oh, Jesus.
Just a little. Just a little control.
Okay.
Let's give them something to do.
Yes. Another way to support the show is wherever you're listening to this podcast, leave us a review or at least a star rating.
Yeah. And hit subscribe if there's a subscribe button. That helps.
Until next week, I'm Ryan the Movie Guy.
I'm Matt Kay. And keep on jawing about the movies.